My scripture reading is taken from the book of Matthew, the 21st chapter, 12th through the 13th verse. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves, and said unto them, It is written, My house shall be called the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And so such is the scripture reading, Matthew, the 21st chapter, 12th through the 13th verse. Again, I say unto you, good morning and welcome. You know, in the reading of this scripture and the understanding of what it is saying falls back on us. Now, when it says that Jesus went into the temple of God, you know, there is the temple basically of mortar and bricks. But there is the temple that is not made by hands. And the temple that is not made by hands, which is the temple of God, is our physical bodies. Our bodies are the temple of God. Did not Jesus teach and say the kingdom is within you? States it in the scripture. Jesus said the kingdom is within you. If the kingdom be within you, then where is God? And if the kingdom be within you, then the physical body must be the temple of God. Now, when it says that Jesus went into the temple, let us understand the temple of God. It is the Christ consciousness that is within us, that is within this temple, created and made by God. Christ within the temple represents that higher authority within us. And it said that Jesus, that Christ consciousness went in to the temple of God and he cast out them that sold and bought in the temple. We're talking about the house of God now. If we're in the external, we're talking about the churches, the temple, in the external. And it says Jesus went into the temple and cast out those that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the table of the money changers. They had defiled the temple of God. In that doing some things that you shouldn't have been doing, not even recognizing that they were in the house of the Lord. In there doing their thing. Now, I've known from past experiences, and I pass no judgment, that in the external world, there are churches and places of worship certain days of the week, usually Friday, Saturdays, they have the bingo game. They're selling chicken dinners and fish dinners and all them other kind of things, as they said, to bring in some extra money. These are the money changers in the house of God. They have not raised their level of awareness to where they know and understand that God provides. So as scripture states, Jesus was casting these people out. And he said to them, my house shall be called a house of prayer. All this other kind of business that's going on in the temple should not be. We should come to the temple to pray and to worship God, not to be running the bingo games and all of these other kind of things. But I was just saying, I'm not passing judgment. I'm just letting you know how it is and what I have witnessed in my early days. Never been to the church and played bingo, but they have those big signs out: Friday night bingo night, Saturday night fish fry, whatever. And I have no problem with that. People do what they feel that they need to do. And Jesus said, you have made my father's house a den of thieves. Now, when they talk about thieves, they're talking about folks that's taking something. We're talking about folks that's stealing something. Talking about folks that they doing things that they should not be doing in the house of God. Now, I want to share some things with you. The money changes basically represents dishonest thoughts of materialism and greed. Money changers represents dishonest thoughts of materialism and greed, trying to get all that they can get. Come on into the house of the Lord, and we're going to tell you some stuff, and in the same time, we're going to be taking your money. We're going to be taking your mind. We're going to be telling you things that is not going to get you into that kingdom of heaven, but you think because you have come into the house of the Lord and participated in the activities that you've earned the passageway. But that's not the way it is. And the scripture states that the seats of them that sold doves, cast them out too, ran them out of the church. And what does the doves mean? We know symbology, the doves represents peace. Peace of mind, confidence in divine law. But they that sold and bought in the temple chased those people out. You've come for one thing, and we're going to give you something else. Now, as Jesus chased out those that sold doves, and doves representing the peace of mind, confidence, belief in divine law. Some of you might have experienced, and the many people that I have counseled and worked with, I've heard this over and over and over. When folks find out that you belong to a certain religion, a certain denomination, people will say, you know, you got to be careful of those people. Those people don't believe in God. Those people believe in a whole lot of other things besides God. You need to listen to what they're saying. And we not being open enough and receptive enough to what's being spoken within us. We listen to other people and we allow them to turn us away from where we have been led. Find the truth. Oh, I can't go to that church because my mother and my family, they don't like that church. So that they don't want me going to that church. So I got to listen to them and I got to go find another place to worship. I've got to find some place that's more acceptable to my family. Well, let me share something with you. I'm a living witness to it. Because when I stepped on this spiritual path and started to study metaphysics, when I went home and explained it to my family that, I come up in a Baptist environment, but I had left the Baptist church now. I'm into this metaphysical movement, metaphysical philosophy and teaching. I don't know. My people would say, oh, that's the work of the devil. You don't know what you're doing to yourself and for yourself. You got to get up out of that stuff. You're going to hell. You better get back to where you were. Leave them folks alone. It was where I was called. And so I had to make a decision between my religion and my family. I let my family go because I knew that my family couldn't do for me the things that God could. Many years after I was here in Washington area, I worked in a liquor store. And the church that I was attending was a spiritualist church. And on Saturdays, they would have what was called then message service. You would go and there would be mediums that would give you a message as to basically what was happening with your life and what spirit was telling them to share with you. Well, this job that I worked in the liquor store, I worked Saturdays. I had to work I think it was from 9 in the morning to 7 or 8 in the evening. So one Saturday, I wanted to go to the church. I needed some answers to some things. And so I said to my boss, I said, I'd like to take my lunch break and go to the church. And he looked at me, he said, you got to make a decision. What is most important to you, your job or your religion? And I looked at him and I said, it's been a pleasure working for you. And I walked out the door, never to come back. So we can't let other people tell us how we should worship, who we should worship, what church should we be a part of. And so as you walk this path, you're going to find out that there will be many that will not agree with what it is that you believe. I want to go back to my family back home, as they said, down home, after they found out that I was into the metaphysical movement and all, I was excommunicated from the family. Oh boy, you up there worshiping with them people up there, and they don't, they don't believe in God. There's all kind of this devil stuff and everything. And I told my mother, my brothers and sisters, and all the relatives, I am where God has put me. I am where I feel most comfortable. Okay, they threw up their hands. You go on, do what you got to do. All right, and I left. Lo and behold, when things started to go bad for my family, who did they call? Who did they send for? Not the Ghostbusters. No, they sent for Reverend Jackson. You got to come down here and straighten this stuff out. You got to come down here and put these people on the right path. But wait a minute. You are the ones that rejected me. You all are the ones that told me that the churches and the worship that I was doing was in opposition to God. And now you're calling me back to help you all with what it is that you were going through? What about your churches? What about your beliefs? What about your ministers? Why are you calling me? Go back to the churches where you've been so used of worshiping and have your issues addressed. But I couldn't say no. I had to go. I had to go. And for many years after that, I continued to go because God was leading me. God was telling me what it was that I needed to do. When we've made our commitment and when we've dedicated ourselves to this path of spiritual growth and unfoldment, we can't listen to the outside world. Yeah, it can be mother, father, brother, sister, husband, and wife. No one can walk this path but you. And you cannot grab someone else's hand and make them walk with you. You see, when God calls, God doesn't call the whole family. God calls one at a time, the individual. Now, if the family wants to follow along, beautiful. But you can't force and you can't make a person follow the same path that you have chosen. Now, when the scripture says that we have made the house of prayer a place, a den of thieves, it means that we have come into not the outer external temple, temple or church, but in our consciousness and in our spirit. This is the temple of God, this physical body. And as Jesus said, the kingdom is within. This is the temple and how we have misused and abused the house of prayer. All the negative thoughts, all of the jealousy, enviness that we've thought about other people, all of those negative things that we've wished on other people. And in those energies that we have put forth out into the world, directed at our brothers and sisters, we have defiled the temple of God. This is the temple, the indwelling place of God. You look outside yourself, you can look up in the sky, you can look anywhere and everywhere that you want to look. But you're not going to find or have that experience of knowing God outside of yourself. You're not going to see, you're not going to feel or have that experience of God outside of yourself. That is why we are taught and told to meditate, turn within. Scripture states, be still and listen to the still small voice within you. That's God speaking. But we are so caught up in all the chatter out here that we can't get still and quiet in this mind to listen to what's being said to us from within. Jesus said, I got to clean this stuff up. I got to clean this temple up. That's what we have to do. We have to clean this consciousness up. We have to clean this mind up so that the light of truth can come forth and permeate every fiber of our being. And let me say this. Don't get so caught up on yourselves that you think that you, as I say, a bag of chips and a Coke, that it's all about you. It's not. It never was all about you. And as long as you think that it's all about you, you're setting yourselves up for the big letdown. It's all about God. Without the Spirit of God, without the presence of God, we cannot do anything in and of ourselves. Not a thing. I don't care how good you look. I don't care how much money you have, what type of job you have. It is all because of the God consciousness and the Spirit is in you that we are enjoying and living life the way we are. But we have to still work on cleansing the temple, our thoughts, positive and constructive thoughts, and always affirming, I am. You see, when you use that statement, I am, in reference to yourself, you are invoking the name and the power of God. That's God. I am. This is what he said to Moses when Moses came up to Mount Sinai. Who shall I tell the people sent me? God said, tell them that I am have sent you. I am is the God power, the God spirit, the God consciousness within you. And whatever you attach to I am in reference to yourself is that which manifests and demonstrates in your life. You are claiming something. And you are using the power of I am to bring it into manifestation. That is why I say, before you speak, think about what it is you're going to say. Because that which you speak can very quickly come into manifestation. Something can materialize on you and within you, or you can direct those thoughts out to someone else. And that is a misuse of the power of God within you. This is what Jesus meant when he cast out the money changers and those that sold doves. We should not ever do anything to rob another person of their peace and their joy. And I said, when I was coming up a long time ago, I don't know how it is now. Well, I know it's a whole lot different. There used to be the saying where the young people, the children used to say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm me. Well, the words might not harm you, but the energies and the vibrations you put into those words can. The negative and destructive energies that you sent for to someone else can do them harm. So we have to be cognizant of what it is that we're thinking before we speak it. Because once we speak it, it's out there. We can't take it back. And if we're speaking a lot of negative and destructive things, then that says a lot about how we are honoring that temple or that God consciousness within us. I'm going to say this about folks going to church, coming to church and everything. I work with a lot of people, and I'm not going to call any names, but you might have heard the saying, people talking about they going to church and all of this, how righteous and religious they are. But there's an old saying, the devil goes to church too. The devil is in church every Sunday. Because we, in our consciousness, we bring the evil. We bring all the negative and destructive energies with us. Now, understand this. Church is not for righteous people. Righteous people don't need the church. Church is for sinners, as they say. The church is for people that are looking to be saved, trying to find a way out of the darkness and the shadows of life. But I've experienced in my life two things. Evil. See, there's a whole lot of folks that have not come face to face with evil. So evil is something different than somebody being bad. We said folks being bad. They're acting up to being bad. We don't very rarely we say that people are evil. But I've stood in the presence of evil. I've seen evil. I had to fight evil in order to survive. It was my life. If I hadn't fought, I don't know if I'd have been here today. But I've seen evil and I've seen what evil can do. Now, when it comes to the devil, we have this vision of what the devil looks like, horns and a long tail and a pitchfork and all this kind of stuff, red looking and everything. I have experienced the presence of the devil. Now, he didn't have horns on his head, and he didn't have a long tail and a pitchfork. But this individual could so contort his face that when you looked at it, the image that we've been so bombarded with of the devil is what manifests on his face. So I've seen evil. I've experienced evil in both forms. And let me tell you this. If you are not doing the things that you should be doing to cleanse and to purify yourself, then you're opening yourself up for a lot of negative energies. You're opening yourself up to be used, to be manipulated by unseen forces. That is beyond description. Evil comes in many different forms. And so I say to you, cleanse your temple. Let it be a temple of light. Let it be a temple of peace. Let it be a blessing to all that come unto you. And remember, when you seek to criticize someone else, as the old adage was, when you point one finger at a person, you got three of them pointing back at you. So what you're saying to a person, one time you're saying three times to yourself. And also remember this, every man, woman, and child that you criticize, judge, and condemn, the Spirit of God dwells in those bodies. The Spirit of God is within each and every man, woman, and child. And so when you send forth your condemnation, and what did Jesus say? Judge not. You're also judging that divine spark within them. And as we know, have heard and been told, what goes around comes around. So if you send it out, it's going to come back to you 10 times fold. Clean up your temple and let the light of God illuminate every fiber of your being. And so it is. Namaste. God bless.